Hello, welcome back to Indus News. Well, we begin this hour with our top story, and that's Prime Minister Imran Khan has said Pakistan will stand by Kashmir until it's liberated. Addressing thousands gathered in Islamabad for Kashmir Hour, Khan said Islamophobia is driving global silence over the worsening crisis in occupied Kashmir. More in this report.
Hundreds of thousands of Pakistanis observed the Kashmir Hour across the country, expressing solidarity with Kashmiris. Rejecting India's illegal annexation, they called for an end to the lockdown of the valley for the past 26 days. Addressing the main gathering in Islamabad, Prime Minister Imran Khan said the world will regret its silence over Indian oppression in Kashmir.
When Muslims are tortured, the international institutions that have to ensure and maintain justice, like the United Nations, remain silent.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan said India's ruling BJP is motivated by hatred for Muslims and inspired by Hitler's Nazi party. Khan said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has played his last card, which will backfire and lead to Kashmir's freedom.
Just like the Nazi party, it took control of Germany. Similarly today, the RSS supporters are eyeing India. Their manifesto included the expulsion of Muslims from India, or to have them live as second-class citizens, denying them the right to have equal citizenship in the country. And this can be seen in Indian-occupied Kashmir today.
Warning India against military adventurism, Prime Minister Khan said Pakistan is fully prepared to thwart any external aggression. Meanwhile, at the President's house, Pakistan's President Arif Alvi said the Muslim world needs to unite for occupied Kashmir.
And staying with the crisis in Kashmir, and hundreds of thousands of Pakistanis have become the voice of Kashmiris who have been jailed in a lockdown by India for 26 days now. Demonstrations and rallies were held across the country to reject India's illegal annexation of Kashmir. More in this report.
Life in Pakistan came to a standstill at midday as national anthem of Kashmir was played in unison across the entire country. People of all ages and professions thronged streets and roads, holding signs calling for Kashmir's right to self-determination. Demonstrations were held in all provincial metropolises as the anger against international inaction over atrocities in Kashmir mounts. Protesters chanted slogans against Prime Minister Narendra Modi in what is being called the largest protest against India in Pakistan. Political leaders, star sportsmen, philanthropists, and activists all came out on the streets. Demonstrators pledged to go to any distance for Kashmiris oppressed by India. The demonstration was the first in what will be weekly rallies held nationwide until the UN General Assembly.
Well, for more on this, we're joined by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Mr. Qureshi, thank you very much for your time and joining us here on Indus News. Now, you saw the peaceful countrywide protest today that was called for by Prime Minister Imran Khan to show solidarity with Kashmir. Do you think that it set a narrative, and how do you think that these protests could cause a direction of somewhat for international conflict to stop in Kashmir?
You see, it's a very clear signal that we wanted to give to the Kashmiri people who are under siege and in a curfew since the last 26 days, that we are with them, they have been heard, and we are on the same page. They should keep their chin up. We want their morale to remain high because every Pakistani, every political party stands with them. Every institution of Pakistan stands with them. Today, students, laborers, farmers, government officials, you name it, every section of society demonstrated solidarity with them. And that's a very clear message. It has gone all over the world, to all capitals of the world, how the people of Pakistan are looking at the illegal action taken by the Indian authorities on the 5th of August.
Now, we've seen you recently trying to garner international support, and this issue has been internationalized by Pakistani efforts. What's the next step on the government's agenda for Kashmir and how to tackle this issue, Mr. Qureshi?
Well, the first thing was that we wanted to do was to send a clear message from the elected representatives of the country. A joint session was called and a unanimous resolution was passed in line with the Kashmiri aspirations. That was message one. Message two was to take the issue to the Security Council and put the case of the Kashmiris there. After 54 years, Kashmir was discussed in the Security Council and it really internationalized the issue. Our third step is going to be looking at the human rights abuse and violations taking place. Go to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, and on the 9th of September, I will be going there and I will tell the Council, this is what's happening. The latest report, BBC report, on the abuse and the torture that is taking place is shocking. The world should see. And the UN Commissioner on Human Rights, they've done a report in June 2018, in July 2019. It's a 49-page report. Now, what I'm saying is, please, come to Azad Kashmir. We will take you wherever you want to go and see for yourself the situation. I would expect the Indians to allow this UN organization to go and see the human rights situation over there. Make a comparison and report to the Security Council because it's an issue which is threatening peace and security of the region.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much for your time. That was the Pakistani Foreign Minister, Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, joining us here on Indus News. Now, the United States says it's very concerned about reported detentions and continued restrictions in Indian-occupied Kashmir. State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus has called on India to respect the human rights of Kashmiris. She was speaking in Washington today and said the US is closely watching the situation in occupied Kashmir. She called for peace and stability along the line of control. She went on to say that the United States encourages Pakistan and India to resolve issues through dialogue. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch has said India's restrictions in occupied Kashmir violate human rights international laws. Indian officials said fresh restrictions were imposed in Srinagar and other parts of Kashmir as a preventative measure ahead of Friday prayers today. In a fresh report, the UK state media broadcaster the BBC has said Indian forces are committing violent acts against civilians in occupied Kashmir. Officials from Pakistan and India are deliberating technical details of Islamabad's Kartarpur Corridor Peace Initiative. The new border crossing will help visa-free movement for pilgrims between two Sikh shrines in Kartarpur and India's Gurdaspur. 15 officials from each side are at the Wagah border 0 point today to have a meeting between both countries. Yesterday, Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson Mohammad Faisal said his country is committed to completing the proposed corridor move. Now, moving on to the crisis in Syria, where Russia says Syrian government forces will unilaterally cease fire in the de-escalation zone in Syria's Idlib from Saturday. Russia's defense ministry urged Syrian militant groups to join the ceasefire. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is considering a draft resolution calling for a truce in northwestern Syria. Earlier, Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said Russia has assured Ankara that there will be no attacks on its posts in northwest Syria. Çavuşoğlu said that the continued attacks by Syrian forces in rebel-held Idlib can unleash another wave of refugees to Europe. He said Turkish military will leave Syria once a settlement to the conflict is reached. Now, the US has announced sanctions it will impose on Lebanon and Oman. aimed at closing off financing Hezbollah and Hamas. The sanctions target Lebanon's Jamal Trust Bank, accusing it of acting as a key financier for Hezbollah. In a statement, the U.S. Treasury Department said the bank was a direct threat to the integrity of the Lebanese financial system. The department is also targeting Omani individuals it says are middlemen, funneling cash to Hamas in Gaza. It says it will work with Lebanon's central bank to deny Hezbollah access to the international financial system. Lebanon's finance minister Ali Hassan Khalil said the banking sector can handle the impact of U.S. sanctions. In a Twitter message, Khalil said Lebanon's central bank is doing what's necessary. In Beirut, the Association of Banks criticized the U.S. move, saying funds with the Jamal Bank are safe. European signatories to the Iran nuclear deal will meet today in an attempt to preserve the treaty. Britain, France and Germany will also discuss ways to protect shipping in the Gulf. European foreign ministers will also be joined by EU diplomatic chief Federica Mogherini. The talks will take place on the sidelines of an ongoing EU defence meeting in Helsinki. The UK's Foreign Minister Dominic Raab says the meeting will build on the G7's positive talks in Iran. He says London will call for more international support to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Earlier, Mogherini welcomed the notion of Iran-US talks on the condition of first preserving the deal. Now, Yemen's government has asked Saudi Arabia to intercede with the UAE to stop its military support for southern separatists. President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi says government forces have withdrawn from Aden to prevent the city from being destroyed. The UAE claims it launched airstrikes against terrorists who attacked coalition forces at Aden airport. Yemen's defense ministry says over 300 people were killed and wounded in the raids on Aden and Abyan province. A spokesperson for the separatist Southern Transitional Council says UAE-backed forces have retaken control of Aden. The fighting between former allies has opened a new front in Yemen's war. A Scottish court has rejected an application for an immediate block on Prime Minister Boris Johnson's decision to suspend Britain's Parliament. The judge said the case should be brought forward to early next week. Judge Raymond Doherty said the hearing, originally set for next Friday, will be heard in full on September 3rd. The British government has welcomed the court's decision. Other legal challenges are being mounted in Belfast and in London. Former Prime Minister John Major has joined the case filed in London by legal campaigner Gina Miller. Their challenge to Johnson's suspension of Parliament will be heard on September the 5th. Now, Ireland says the United Kingdom has not made any credible proposals on replacing the Irish border backstop. However, the British government has dismissed the accusation, saying it has submitted alternative ideas. British Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said it was wrong of Ireland and the EU to make such accusations. He said the next big turning point in the Brexit talks will be on October 17th at the EU summit. But Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney says the British government is pursuing an unreasonable position.
We all want to get a deal, but at the moment, nothing credible has come from the British government in the context of an alternative to the backstop. And, you know, if that changes, great. We'll look at it in Dublin.
Now let's take a quick look at the European stock markets in